Welcome to the 4 Mile Circus podcast. 4 Mile Circus is an independent media services company in Brooklyn, New York. I'm Sean Mannion, writer, director, producer, partner in 4 Mile Circus, and co-host of this show.
I'm Nicole. I'm the other half of 4 Mile Circus. I make movies and stuff.
Occasionally.
Sometimes.
We just made
music videos.
Lots of music videos.
PSAs.
Tears. And so today we're talking with some guy who takes pictures for a living. His name is Chris Cuffaro. He took pictures of a couple of bands back in the 90s called Nirvana.
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 It was Dave
Pearl
Grohl's. It was Dave.
Jim?
Wait, it was Dave Grohl's band before Foo Fighters.
Okay, Dave Grohl's band before the Foo Fighters. Okay, I know.
Weird.
Yeah.
I think I've heard. Yeah, he had a band first.
Yep.
Oh, that's interesting.
So bad.
He played guitar in it?
No, drums.
What?
Yeah, he's a drummer. Wow. Isn't that strange?
Whoa. You're getting the inside scoop here on the 4 Mile Circus podcast today.
Apparently, he was.
Nobody knows.
He was also a photographer for some sort of addiction group by somebody named Jane.
That must have been hard.
That must have been tough.
Let's just put it this way. I've been shooting music for over 40 years.
40 years.
Or actually, it'll be 40 exact years come December 17th.
Wow. That is
it's a long time.
Older than me.
I know. Shut up.
Chris is a photographer behind a lot of famous photographs of pretty much everybody.
Not everybody, but a lot.
But most.
Everybody in the 90s, though.
Yeah.
No.
And
I can give you a list of 20 people I didn't shoot. So easily 20 people.
But you sure you
But
didn't
it's
just
only-
forget?
But it's
No.
only 20, though.
No, but I mean, I always say my thing is I've done a lot, but there's a lot that I haven't done as
That's
well.
true.
But
Well, I guess if you want to have a humble, good attitude about things, but that confuses us. We don't know.
right,
true.
I understand.
We don't know what to do with that.
But your work has been seen.
Yes,
Anybody who's seen that faith image,
right?
That's the one I always use when I talk about you, because everybody's seen that. Everybody knows
George Michael
in the jeans with the guitar.
Exactly. That's I call it the most iconic photo I've done.
Yeah.
But I also have another probably couple dozen that are iconic for the artist in a sense.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like where maybe it's not iconic overall, but it's for the artist's career, it's iconic.
Right.
So
Right.
Kind of works that way.
Yeah.
A lot.
And so he's shot just about everybody, and we're going to talk to him about his career and the changes over time. As he said, he's been around for about 40 years. But before we get into all of that, Nicole, do you have a social media tip for us?
I do have a social media tip for us.
I want to know.
Well, when you're on social media, it's very useful to have images for your posts. This goes across all platforms. Obviously, on Instagram, you need an image because that's the whole point, but also on Facebook, Twitter. It'll help boost your engagement to have an image on your post. So you always want to have images, but sometimes it's hard because maybe you're, unlike our guest today, Chris Cuffaro, you might not be a photographer or a graphic designer or somebody who can easily whip up a graphic that has, an image on it and maybe some text if you're trying to promote an event or a Facebook live stream or an episode of a podcast or whatever it may be, that it might be useful to have some information on the image that you're sharing. And if you're not a graphic designer who knows how to use Photoshop, that might be intimidating and difficult. But thankfully, being that we live in the social media age, our needs are being met by various simple, user-friendly, online graphic design platforms that are pretty intuitive and easy to use. And so all of us, even if we do not have photography and graphic design expertise, can create decent looking images to use with our social media posts. I am a big fan of Canva personally. Canva.com, it allows you to upload your own graphics. They have a lot of clip arty graphics you can use, whole range of fonts. It's a simple, I
did not know this.
Yeah, well, we're all learning today.
Yeah,
this is
exactly.
Great. This is great. That's what we're here for. We're here to help the community of this hotel room. Anyway, another cool thing about Canva is they have templates that are optimized for different social media platforms. So you can pick like the Instagram post one, and it'll size it to the optimal size for an Instagram post, or Twitter header for your like Twitter profile if you're trying to create something that says, say, Chris Cuffaro, photographer, with your face under it.
Right.
That's totally what you want to do.
No.
Yeah. So anyway, yeah. So Canva helps you if you don't happen to have all of those dimensions at your fingertips of exactly what the best, blog header dimensions are, or, Facebook profile picture or whatever it may be. All your major social media platforms are represented on Canva. That's what it's there for. It's there to help people who are not professional graphic designers make professional-ish looking stuff. I've used it a lot for a lot of different things. And that's my social media tip of the episode.
I would say being a visual person. I know. Being a visual person myself, I try to do as much with photos as possible. I mean, I always tell people, the old stupid cliche of pictures worth 1,000 words. I think it does ring true in social media. I believe it. Like everything, like I always say, you always talk about hashtags. I'm always like, yeah, but also the photo should do a lot as well.
Absolutely. I mean, it attracts people's eye. Yeah. I think it's been statistically shown to be much more likely that people will click on to expand a post that has an image so that they can see the whole thing. It's just another tool you have in your toolbox to get people's eyes on social media drawn to your stuff as opposed to the glut of other stuff that's there.
Since we're on social media, can I ask some questions?
Go ahead.
What do you think about video? I mean, how well do you think video does compared to images?
Well, I think that's something that we're experimenting with right now.
Yeah.
Anecdotally, I think it's great. I mean, I find for me at least, especially on Twitter, the way that they're autoplaying videos in your feed, you'll notice like, oh, it's moving, and then you stop and
exactly.
Usually, hopefully, people are keeping their videos short enough that it's just going to be 30 seconds of your life. They're not sticking like 10-minute long.
Yeah, I've done that series of clips I was doing with the still photos with music, and I just tried to keep them in 15 to 20 seconds. And I just felt like it worked. I just felt like people stopped and they would look for 15 seconds.
Yeah.
Yeah. And a thing I would say about the video that I've been noticing looking at stuff Sean and I have been posting recently, which are largely like little film trailers or teasers and things like that, is you want to do a video on Twitter and Instagram where the sound enhances it, but that works without the sound. Like we just did a trailer for a film of mine called Small Talk that had like some review quotes on it, and I realized, oh, that looks really good in your Twitter feed to just have like, it's like a slideshow kind of effect.
Exactly.
And if it's legible, if you have text that you can read without expanding it, that works really well. And it's another element.
That's why I always slate mine at the front and the back is like greatest hits, and then at the back it's always the website link, one or the other. Yeah. And I always make those slates, or I try to make those slates like, in a sense, 2 seconds on each end, with the photos in the middle, or 1 second. Yeah. So it always goes like, I just feel like that way they can see.
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
A little bit longer, yeah.
I think it works. I don't know. I'm a big social media fanatic, so I think for what I've done so far, I think it's pretty good. Like, it could be better, but it's pretty good.
It can always be better.
Yeah.
Because it's a moving target. There's no one way to do it.
I just laugh at how it's all changed so much. I always tell people this story about how less than 10 years ago, I shoot for Fox Television, and I did this job once where I brought a video camera with me, and I had one of my assistants shoot BTS, just shooting stuff as we were doing the photo shoot. And at the end of the day, they were like, why did you bring the video camera? Why were you shooting that? And I just said, well, it's good for social media. And they were like, really? And I kind of explained to them, and then I said, do you want to buy the tape? And they ended up buying the tape from me for $500.
Nice.
And I don't know what they did with it, but then like they were just starting out, like thinking about social media and all that stuff. And now they have an entire department of like 20, what I call kids, because they're all like college graduates who studied social media in college, and they all have degrees in social media. And they run around. Now they send like 2 or 3 people to each shoot onto the sets of the shows, and they just sit there with like multiple phones and doing things like it's like full on a whole department for it, like a whole freaking department of social media. So it went from like nothing, not knowing anything, to a bunch of kids with college degrees, and it's the strangest thing to see. I mean, it really is. It's really weird to see that I laugh about it, like, and all these kids that are into it are like And I've talked to them because, we have breaks in the shoots, and I'll just pull them aside and say, so like, how did you do this? Oh, I went to school, went to university and studied social media. I said, so your parents spent all that money on a college degree so that you can tweet? Really? I'm like, man, if I was your parents, I would be pissed big time. I really would, but but I keep waiting for social media to stop and end, but it never is.
It's just going to evolve. It's
and more so than
evolving.
ever. And
because it's just been doing that. I mean, since
when did Twitter start? Like
2006?
Around there, yeah.
I think it first started in like 2006, and it was like so different looking. And it was like you had to do it through text. Like I remember when you had to do it through text messages.
Me too.
That's before the iPhone.
Yeah, I just remember when it came out, and I remember getting my account and like, tweeting and kind of going like, who's paying attention to any of this?
Well, that was that magical time where everybody was kind of following everybody, and there wasn't like the strata that there is now. It's not, there wasn't really no Oprah.
Yeah,
Oprah was still just on the TV.
And now, I mean, who's the number one person on Twitter is Katy Perry.
Oh, really?
The last time I checked, it was Katy Perry.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
It's weird.
I still really don't know very much about her.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how much there is to know. I know that sounded really shady. I didn't mean it that way.
But she's an example to me is that though she is a Clinton supporter, so if she's got 20 million people following her and says something, that's people pay attention.
Absolutely.
I mean,
she was traveling with the campaign, right? And I'm sure tweeting about
and it's
it.
The same thing with like in Instagram stuff like that. They get all these massive followers like a Kardashian or whatever or a Jenner. And they get I get excited if I get 100 likes. They get like 100,000 within 5 minutes.
Yeah.
I have friends who I've seen tweet something and within 5 minutes have 40,000 likes, and I'm like, oh my god, there's that many people paying attention to you, and so whatever message they're putting out gets heard.
Yeah.
Or the other side of it is there may be that many bots or other spam accounts that are just following.
I
if
still
someone's
don't
big
know
enough.
how that exactly works. But I kind of know that I get those weird things on Instagram once in a while, and I try to delete those people. But I still just don't. It doesn't even matter. I would say even if, because I kind of do it with. I mean, I'm not a statistician. I'm not a number person by any means. But my mind always is. I always keep everything simple. So I'm always going like, okay, if 100 people read my blog post or 100 people like my photo, and if half of those actually pay attention, that's pretty good. And if half of those people actually go read the blog, that's still better than good. I mean, as a photographer, I can tell you this is the way I look at it. If I get 100 views on a blog post, that's huge. You ask the average photographer, go talk to other photographers and ask them, how many views do you get on your blog a day or your website a day? And if they even have it set up, you can do the stats thing.
Yeah.
If you can do the stats and you can see, even if you use Google Analytics or whatever, and you can literally ask the average photographer, I guarantee they get less than 10 people to look at their website a day.
Sure.
If they're lucky, 10. I average on CuffaroPhoto.com, I average 250 a day.
Sounds good.
So now I know, I always tell people, I always say to everybody, like, I know that's not Huffington Post. I know that's not Daily Beast or ESPN. But for a photographer, that is Huffington Post. And I've gotten up to, my biggest day ever was 50,000 for a Nirvana post I did. Over 50,000, almost broke my server. But so I kind of always put it in that perspective of who in my genre or my world, what's a good number. I always say to everybody, like, so my goal is always 100 views, 100 likes, 100. If I always say anything above that is good for me, if that makes sense.
Yeah, makes sense.
And try to keep, and then the thing is just, we always talk about is like being consistent. Mm-hmm. Like, I think that's so important. I always tell people, I post at least 3 pictures a day on Instagram. I try to do at least 6 to 10 posts a day on Twitter. And then just keep it consistent. And I try to do the best hashtags.
We've had many hashtag conversations.
I know. And I'm trying. It's hard, but I have to say though, when you gave me that list, I think it was about a year ago, maybe a little less than a year ago. The numbers, everything's gotten better because of the hashtags. Yeah. And but I find it's better when the artist that I post a picture of, it's better when they like or retweet. That's everything.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
If I post a picture of Ice-T and he retweets it or it's like boom, the numbers jump. Or who did I do recently where it was like really good? Iggy Pop, he actually, whatever, I don't know if he handles his account, but he took one of my photos and he put it on his thing, and that just got people to notice. So, that I try to use it, that I would say I try to use the celebrity and their status and their audience to build my audience.
Yeah. As you should. Absolutely.
Isn't that the way to do it, right?
Yeah.
That's absolutely the way to do it.
I've done pretty well.
Well, just to we covered a little bit about who you are, but tell us tell us exactly
my
who
bio?
are you and who
I'll
give
give
you
you
shot and
right.
what do people know and why does it matter?
Yeah, exactly. That's the most important question. It really doesn't matter. No, okay, here's the basics. I'm a photographer and / director. Emphasize photographer because I've been a photographer for 46 years. Started when I was 10 years old. Had business cards at 12. Had clients at 12. I love photography more than anything. And I love it today more than I did when I started. I've been shooting. I moved to Los Angeles when I was 21-ish. And so that's 36 years, I guess, I've been there. I made my name in the music world. But, as I always tell people, I hate being put in boxes. I hate being put in any kind of restraints. Because when I started out and I was really young, it was like, oh, you're like, oh, you're the music photographer or you're the pop rock photographer. When I did George Michael Faith, oh, you're the pop photographer. It's like, no, you're this guy. I hate that. I always tell them I'm just the photographer. I just want to be just the photographer. So I've been shooting in Los Angeles, and I've traveled all over the world, done over 300 album covers. I've directed music videos. I've done a lot. I've done more than people know, and I've done more than I even talk about. I've never been a big fan of about attention. So I just always said to everybody, I'll let my pictures do the talking. So I've done a lot. I've shot all the celebrities. I can drop names. I mean, I've been around a long time and when everybody was starting out. So it was a lot of fun. I have the best job in the world. I have more fun than anybody I know. I really do. It's not even lying. So.
Well, so as you said 46 years. You've been shooting.
Yeah.
46 years.
I'm sad to say I'm 56.
Well, you didn't have to say that.
Yeah,
but don't worry. You don't look a day over 75.
Going on 14, baby. I feel like I'm 96, but it's different.
So I think, over that time, 46 years, a lot has changed in the field of photography.
Huge, massive changes.
Now everybody's got like a camera in their phone. We're doing, doing a live stream video.
No, I agree.
On our phone here. Like, how does that affect, how does that increased accessibility impact like you?
Well,
how does it impact photography?
Well, this is the way I see it. And I mean, and you know me well enough to know I have an opinion on everything.
Yes. And that's why we're talking to you, because if you didn't have opinions, we wouldn't talk to you.
Yeah, exactly. And I have what I consider an educated opinion. So how photography has changed, the way I jokingly say is that when I started taking pictures, a roll of Tri-X was 65 cents. Now it's not even made. So, I mean, it is, but it's like $6 a roll. No, I think the biggest changes I have noticed, especially in the last, when digital took off, that was the biggest change. When digital came along, that was a shift. Like, that was a massive shift, because all of us up to that point, we all had film and we all shot, we had different techniques that we did, different cameras, different this. Everything was, you created a style by using your tools and the film and what you did in post-production, in a sense, processing. And then digital came along and that just changed everything. And that made it easier for everybody. I always say to everybody that there are more pictures taken today than ever in the history of mankind. And everybody's a photographer. Everybody who has Instagram or camera phone, everybody who has Photoshop. Like, back in my day, I was special and there was only a handful of people who could do what I do. And now everybody can, in that sense. And then they do, as my rule is always too, is I don't knock anybody down. I think anybody can take a great picture. Anybody. And I've seen them. My friends I've seen them take some of the most amazing pictures, even if with their phone or not, doesn't matter. A picture's a picture. And then I sit there and I always say, yeah, but try doing it for 46 years consistently and putting up with the bullshit that I've had to put up with. Because taking pictures is easy, and that's only 10% of my job. It's the other 90%, the business of putting up with the assholes and the idiots and the morons and the interns that are, an intern one day, the photo editor the next. It's putting up with the crazy subjects, the strung out rock stars, the fucked up actresses, the fucked up whoever. So there's a lot of, that's the easy part. And in my head, and I always say this, think I've told you this before, like in all my years of taking pictures, I never have been once paid to take pictures. Not once. In my mind, I get paid. The money that comes in is for all the work before and after. It's all for post-production, pre-production, production, you know, running around, whatever it is. That's what I'm actually getting paid for. Taking pictures, sad to say, as I do for free, probably more often than I do get paid for it. But like, I love it so much. I can't stop doing it. It is my drug. It's my blessing and my curse. Some days it's the greatest thing in the world, and some days it just fucking sucks and I want to kill myself. But I wouldn't have it any other way. And I've done, like I always say, I've done more than most people even know. And you know, because you're helping me with my documentary.
Right.
My tagline is, I have a million stories and the photos to prove it. And that is my entire life. And so it works for me.
Fantastic.
I've been posting a couple of the clips from the documentary in the
Yeah.
Facebook live stream. So those of you who are watching on Facebook Live who want to check those out later, there's a whole bunch of clips about Chris talking about the cameras he used to use.
Stories.
The Mamiya. I honestly can't remember how to pronounce
Yeah,
it.
it's Mamiya, Pentax, Hasselblad. I used it all.
And Polaroids. And,
Yeah, totally. Through the years, I've used it, you know, at least once or twice. Like I always tell people, I just tried everything. Back in the day, you had to. Like,
Yeah.
It's different now. Everybody nowadays uses like a Canon digital camera, and they all look the same. You know, and there's people do more work in post production than they do in anything.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's the
Don't
same
you guys,
with
as you
film a lot,
guys shoot
too, yeah.
stuff, don't you kind of spend more time on post production?
Oh yeah. You should look at the thing Sean's editing right now.
I'll
Yeah.
show it to you later. It's
Yeah.
mostly post-production.
It's very short. Don't.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, it's like, but you, like, I always tell people, back in my day when we were starting out, you know, I would take the pictures like for a client, you know, it was an album cover or publicity shoot, and then you would go to the lab, you drop the film off, they'd process it, you'd get your proof sheets, you'd send the proof sheets to the label would pick out the 3 or 4 photos they wanted, you go get prints made, and you were kind of like done. And I didn't do any of that. Like, a lab was doing all that for me, and with my instructions. Nowadays, you're like, I'm taking the pictures. I have to go home. I have to do all the, you know, the backing up. First of all, I'm a fanatic about backing up.
Good.
And then it's like, then the post production. Then I'm doing the retouching and making prints or sending. You end up. I always say to people, I'm doing the lab's job, especially because my whole living room is a digital lab. It's massive, so I have everything. So it's like this whole other thing. That's why I say to people, taking pictures is like, I don't even take pictures anymore. Since digital started, I tell people all the time, I don't take pictures. They go, well, then what are you doing? I go, I'm gathering information. Because whatever information I'm gathering, it's what I do with it later on makes all the difference and is what's going to make it work or not work. I think as a filmmaker, because I do that I feel like it's your job just to gather the information, meaning the visual and the audio, and then do what you will afterwards.
Oh yeah, and it's somewhat analogous. I mean, I first started learning how to do video editing back in the analog days when I was in high school. I took a video class and we edited on like VHS stuff.
Did you ever use a Grass Valley system? Do you know what that is?
No. I don't.
Okay, that's when I started editing. It was in 1991, and it was called Grass Valley, and it was like there was this other, and you would get 3/4 inch tapes, and you have all these decks, and you would have them all in, and you would pull and back and forth, and it was crazy. It took forever.
Yeah, that's probably a better setup than like the old busted cable access station leftovers that we had at my school, where you're dubbing from like one VHS or SVHS, hopefully, to another, and you mark the frame and the equipment we had was so old that you'd mark the frame and it would usually get it slightly off, so you'd have to mark your in point 10 times before you're like, yes, that's actually where I want the cut to be.
Yeah, exactly. No, it was crazy. I mean, I always tell people the story that when I directed my first music video with Pearl Jam, and it took 2 days to shoot, but it was like, and then it was like editing. I think it took us like 3 months to edit, because not because it would have taken a week basically, but like because I had to get a free editing bay from Propaganda. They were nice enough to kind of support my project, and they were a massive company. Propaganda was like the music video company in LA for the longest time. They had represented David Fincher, Anton Fuqua, Michael Bay, like everybody who was anybody, like all the directors that you see now probably started at Propaganda. Like they were just the place, and they were nice enough to help me. And so we would edit, they would let me use an editing bay, and I would like, okay, cool. We get like 2 hours, and it would take us like to do like 5 seconds in 2 hours, because you're like swap. Do you remember what that tape was? What tape has the right footage? And it was all 3/4 inch, and then you basically took your, what is it? The EDL, the numbers or whatever they called it. And I still have the original like floppy disks that all the information was on. Like I still have all that stuff, and you would take that and then you go to online it and so on and so forth. It was such a process.
It's so interesting to me how it seems like everything should be so much more efficient now. Like when I first used Final Cut, it felt like cheating. Like this is so easy. It's right there and you drag it. Like it's totally new world. But then that ends up creating so much more work for us because all of the possibilities of what you can do in post-production now, it's like you kind of have to because...
Well, the crazy part, like I said, is like 20 years ago, you didn't have to do that job. You would have somebody do it for you. Now we all do all those jobs. So I always say to everybody, if you list the jobs that you do or the skills, I go as a photographer, taking pictures is like whatever. It's like it's all the other 100 things that I do. And even social media is one of them. Know what I'm saying? It's like so you do all these different things, and I would say it's great that we can do them all, and the tools are there, and it's easy to do. But at the same time, like, it just makes more work, and you have less time to do anything normal.
To do the thing you want to focus on.
Sleep.
Yeah. Exactly.
Now everybody does the jobs of an entire office as an individual. Because you kind of can, but you don't. It doesn't mean you have.
Doesn't mean you're good at it.
One, it doesn't mean you're good at it, and two, it also. It doesn't actually take that much less time to do.
Right.
I mean, you know this. We both, we handle social media for ourselves and for other people sometimes. And you handle your own social media as well as doing all of the other work. And we've talked about this a few times, in that you're an entire office unto yourself.
Oh, I do the job. I always say I do the job of 20 people every day.
Yeah.
And when I go to, recently I have a publicist now, so I go to my publicist's office. I look at them and I talk shit about them. I just say like, I do your guys' job. I can do your job. And they look at me, and then they get a little annoyed, and I'm like, no, you don't understand. I can do your job because I've been doing publicity for myself for 40 years. So hello, and I go, you can't do my job, so don't even think about it. And they just like, they think I'm being mean, but I'm not. I'm just stating a fact, and so back off.
Yeah, it's more accessible, so everybody. Even if you don't necessarily think you can do it, you kind of have to do it.
But what I always tell my assistants, and I mentor like 5 photographers right now, and I just met a new one that I'm going to start helping out. And I tell everybody, I'm just a firm believer in the more you know, the better it is to communicate. So as an example, I always tell people the story of my first Pearl Jam video. I was working with one of the best award-winning DPs at that time, Martin Coppin. He's a legend in the music videos. He worked with everybody. He's done. I can show you you go to his website, you check out his reel, you'll be like, I know that video. And he's won awards. And he's like, excuse my French, but he's a crazy fucker. Like, he's insane, and he's so good. But I always tell people, like, I remember we shot 35 millimeter Panavision camera. I'd never been that close to a 35 millimeter Panavision camera in my life up to that point. And I was like, holy shit. And all I remember saying to him, like, we had an hour, they were all setting everything up, and we had an hour of just, I said, Martin, tell me everything about this camera that you can tell me in an hour. Tell me about the lens. Put each lens on, because I had a complete lens package. So he's putting each lens on. I'm looking at the monitor, seeing what each lens does. And then he puts, different attachments and different this. And he just, an hour lesson on, crash course on the Panavision 35 millimeter package. And the only reason we shot that was because I got it free. I mean, we were looking to, originally 16 millimeter Aeroflex would have been good enough.
Yeah.
But it was like, we got a free package. That's what you shoot.
Sure.
And you just kind of, and then film was like, it was like you kind of weigh it out. Oh, but film's more expensive than 16. But like, hey, then we figured out like we can make our film double the length if we shoot at 12 frames a second instead of 24. And we can, so our 500 feet just turns into 1,000 feet, and we'll save money. And so I just remember I always had, it started with him in that philosophy, like, you just tell me, I just want to know enough about that camera to communicate. So when he turns to me and says, Chris, do you want a 35 prime on there or the 24 prime on there? I know in my head, because I saw what they look like. So I always tell people, I don't want to do your job and like even recording all this stuff. I just want to know enough to tell my sound guy or my camera guy what to use and what works. Or if they're telling me shit, I'm not looking at them going, I have no idea what you're talking about. And so to me, it's just all about communication. It's like working with my publicist now. They say things that I go, yeah, I totally understand this. And I can speak their language, basically. And so I think it's important. That's why I tell all the people I mentor, which is a lot, that just to learn enough that you can communicate and you can understand. And then you're set. And a lot of people, I don't want to do that. I don't have to think about that. I'm like, no, you do. You have to.
Yeah.
It's kind of my idea.
Yeah, it's sort of a luxury to be able to only have like one focus.
Yeah, I would love to be able to just take pictures and not think about anything else. God, that would be the greatest day of my life, but it's not going to happen ever.
No, absolutely. That's a lot of what we do also, I think, talking to artists who want to just do their art and don't want to deal with the self-promotional, social media, fundraising, all of those pieces, which I understand. Yeah. I don't want to do it either.
Yeah,
but
my philosophy has been, for all these years, I tell people, first of all, rule number one is you are not in this, your guy's case, like you're not in the filmmaking business. You're in the business of filmmaking. Business always comes first. I am in the business of photography. I am the business of whatever. It's always business. I can tell you a million stories about people who are more talented than me, have more skills than me, but they ain't around because they couldn't handle their business. As much as we all hate business, I know you do, and I hate it. I hate it too. But that's what will keep you going. That's what has kept me going for 46 years, is that I hate it. Luckily, I had a business manager for a lot of years who, basically taught me how to run a business. But that's the most important thing. And you, by doing that, by understanding that it's business, and even an artist has to understand it as business, because we all have to pay bills and we all have to live, you're better off. I laugh with these young kids today. They just all think, I'm going to be artsy and creative and this is great. And I went to school and I learned how to edit and I learned how to shoot, and they all have 5Ds. And I go, I know where they're going to be 20 years from now if they don't get their shit together. They'll be making YouTube clips 20 years from now, making no money. And I feel sorry for them, and it's like, you have to think about business first. And as I always say to everybody, like, everything you do should be business. It should have that business thought of like, what is this going to do for me as a business? Otherwise, you're not going to be around long. Like I always tell people, all my peers in Los Angeles, when I started, most of them are gone. Mm-hmm. Most of them, if not all of them. I'm still there. I always tell people 20 years from now, I'll still be there shooting. I'll be like in a wheelchair, go, work with me, baby.
Well, it's all a little bit of a practice and persistence of just like, how much can you weather it?
Yeah.
Because there's always
as I like to say, you got to be so stupid you don't listen to logic. You really do. I said when I moved to LA, I used to tell people, I'm just so stupid. I should have stayed home in the Bay Area and gotten to Silicon Valley. I'd be rich by now. But no, you just have to. It's like that's why I say it's a curse. You just love it so much. I was talking to my publicist last week. It's like, I'm a firm believer that everything happens for a reason. Everything. And so I said, she's like, well, then why are you doing this? I go, the reason? I have to. There's no other way to explain it, but I have to. And I'll do it till I die. And otherwise than that, all the famous artists that I know and the people I've met through my career, there's just something. I always say we're just stupid and we just have to do it. I didn't start this because I wanted to make money and be rich and famous. It'd be nice, but it's not my motivation for doing it. I don't think anybody should have that as a motivation.
At least the rich part.
Yeah.
Well, it's no fun being famous and not rich.
Well, I think I told you the story about my business manager when I first met her, and she was like my mom for 25 years. She was like, I told her how since I was 10 years old, I've always said, all I want to do is take pictures for the rest of my life. All I want to do is take pictures for the rest of my life. That was my number one goal. And she says to me, she looks at me just serious as can be, you could have added one more thing to that. I go, what's that? And she goes, you could have said, all I want to do is take pictures for the rest of my life and make money. Yeah. And I was like, oh, I forgot that part. So basically I've lived my dream, but now I'm trying to live the financial dream. Make some freaking money. So it's
at least pay the rent.
Yeah, exactly.
At least pay the rent.
But it's tricky. I mean, being an artist, period, is not easy, and I think it's more difficult nowadays because there's more people doing it nowadays. Everybody thinks they're creative. Everybody has a camera. How many times do you meet somebody, you start talking about filmmaking, and they all go, "Yeah, I'm shooting my own movies for YouTube, or I'm doing this, or oh, I can do your job. That's easy. What you do is easy." And you're like, "No, people, this is a lot of work."
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that's interesting because that's a lot. That accessibility is like, and as somebody whose career started before this accessibility, like what have you seen about like the shift and just like what you've been able to do?
Well,
like, how does it change your ability to get a job even?
It's hard. It's harder now than it's ever been. The budgets have shrunk massively. Especially, I can speak mainly for the music and entertainment world. They've shrunk. Sad to say. I always tell people the story about back in the day, like even before I started shooting television, was Annie Leibovitz used to shoot ABC television's, what they call gallery and advertising shoots. She was getting $50K a day for those things. And you were like, are you kidding? Plus expenses. Yeah. So you're like, what the fuck? And then they dropped down. When I started doing them, I was getting 15 to 20.
Uh-huh.
And now you're lucky if you get 5,000, if that. And they ask, hey, it's American Idol. Can you do it for half as much? You're like, are you kidding me? Like the budgets have just shrunk because they also know that there's a million photographers out there and they do it all. The work is done in post-production. So all they need is somebody to click the shutter because they're going to do it all, whatever they're going to do with it afterwards. Yeah. My best friend here in New York for years was the photo editor at Maxim and Stuff Magazine, Hyla, and she used to always say to me, like, in Los Angeles, photography is a tool, and in New York, it's an art. And I've always felt that to be true. And she says, in LA, it's a tool to sell something. It's a tool to sell a movie, a TV show. So that's all changed. That hasn't changed, but it's also the changing part is that there's more people doing it than ever before, and more people want to do it. I meet, kids all the time. My friend's 16-year-old son wants to be a photographer. I'm like, dude, don't, please. You don't want to do that. And I just look at the parents and I say, hey, you better have a lot of money because that kid's going to starve for the rest of his life.
Or at least make sure that he insists on some sort of higher rate so it's not...
But everybody's undercutting everybody.
Yeah, that's the problem, isn't it? We're all undercutting each other, and now none of us can eat.
Yeah, exactly. Everybody's doing it. I hear it all the time. Like, and doing stuff even for free, and it makes it tough. And I feel like we're doing a group therapy session. Or like,
it's kind of what the podcast is.
Like,
it's pretty much what it is.
It is like I just all of a sudden feel like I'm Chris. I'm an alcoholic, and kind of want to confess my sins here. But it's true though. I always tell people, again, what I try to do whenever I meet anybody new that's into this creative world, I scare the shit out of them. I just try to scare everybody. I always say, if they look at me when I'm done scaring them, then they just go, but I really want to do it. And then great, then I'll help you do it. Right. I just met this girl photographer who wants to be a fashion photographer. And she's really talented. I think she's really, really good. And she just went on and on about how, like, I love this. I want to be a fashion photographer. And I'm like, there's 50 million fashion photographers. And it's like, good luck. But I tried to scare the shit out of her. And she came back to me and said, like, I really want to do that. And I said, all right, then let's begin. And here's what you need to do. And you got to think about business. And it's tough. It's a really tough profession to choose. And I've said it for 30 years. It's easier to be a heroin addict than to be an artist. And it's more fun to be a heroin addict. It really is. It really is. Seriously. And if you're a heroin addict, you probably will die a nice, peaceful death. Photography? Nope, not so much. So I think that there's been a lot of changes, to go back to your thing, but there's been a lot of changes, but there's it's still great. It's still the best. You know that. Like, you guys both know that. Like, it's amazing when you create something so good and the feeling it's insane. It's like you just like, yeah. The sense of pride, the sense of just joy of like, yeah, I did this. And then to me, then I wake up the next day going, that sucked. Let's do something else.
Yep.
That sounds great. I'm really looking forward to making something good.
Yeah.
I was going to say, I don't know if that feeling's quite as familiar to me.
Oh my God. We got to change something. No, but I do. Ask my friends every time I always tell, I'll do a photo shoot. And when I'm done, I'm like, that is the greatest thing ever. And I wake up the next day and go, that sucked. I can do better than that. I got to do better than that. And I really work hard. It's like, I always tell people, I've never been satisfied with anything I've ever done. I always tell, I've never settled. I'll never be satisfied. I just don't. Even now that, this project we're doing, it's like, I'm happy. Like, it's like, yeah, you're happy, but you're like, yeah, but not right. Not yet. Not yet. I know I won't be. It'll be the biggest night of my life. And the next day I'll wake up going, well, that sucked.
Next one will be better.
Yeah, exactly. So I think it's part of the curse of being an artist.
But there are those fleeting moments, those like peak experience kind of things where there's nothing else like it. And I think that's why we all, or at least that's why I do it, because there's no,
It's all about the moments.
Yeah.
It really is. I write about it on my blog. I write my greatest moments. And that's why I said after all these years, I always say I'm old enough now and I've done enough that I get to look back and say, oh, this great moment. I have a few blog posts and I've written more about these. I call them great moments. And it's like whether it was shooting Kirk Douglas, shooting Sidney Poitier, shooting what I call my heroes, Jack Lemmon, Walter Matthau, shooting Iggy Pop. I can go down the list of a million. That these moments are just brilliant. I always say that's really why I'm doing this. It's not about. I always tell people it's not about my photos. That's a part of it, but it's more about the journey and these moments. And I've been lucky because I've shot most of my heroes. I've spent time with them. I've created, I think, lasting art. Because I always tell people that's just another crazy story is that when I was like 12, 13 years old, I met this photographer, and he was like nobody by any means, but he said to me, and it stuck in my head, was like, he goes, you haven't done a body of work until it will last the test of time. And you haven't done anything until you know that that art will last. And I've done that.
Yeah.
And so it's like, that's important to me. And my hero when I was a kid was Richard Avedon.
Mm-hmm.
He was like God to me when I was a kid, and Irving Penn as well. And they just, you look at their photos now, they're as good today as probably the day they took them. And that's what always kind of set my goals, were like, my picture of George Michael, or my picture of Perry Farrell, my picture of Jane's Addiction or Pearl Jam. They're as good as now as the day that I shot them 25 years ago. And they will be great from here on out. And that gives me pride.
Absolutely.
So,
Should.
it's crazy. Oh, God. I feel like a therapy session, I swear to God.
I mean, that just means we're doing it right?
Exactly.
I mean, truthfully. Oh, do you need to connect or something?
I can. You can keep going.
Okay, cool. I mean, it's sort of interesting because what you were saying about scaring people is sort of, when Nicole and I were walking over here, we were kind of talking about the same thing, about basically like everybody thinks they can do these things because it's handed. It's just like, oh, here, try, give a shot. I mean, that's certainly why I started doing it, because I was like, I could do that. I could do that. I want to do that, but I could do that. It's like but then
like I said, though, anybody can, and I would root them on. But like I said, try doing it for 40 years.
Yeah.
Like you've been doing it at what, 6, 7,
8 thing. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a long time. Most of the people I've come and gone in those 8 years.
Oh yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying? Like, so that's the thing. It's
lasting.
Like, yeah. It's like being an athlete. You can go ahead and hit a home run, but try hitting 700 home runs.
Exactly.
It's like amazing.
And it's I mean, I think it's kind of what we were talking about, was just there's a certain attitude sometimes of just encouraging people all the time, no matter what.
Yeah.
But maybe it should be a little bit more like, scare the shit out of people, tell them how hard it is and how, like, all the worst stories.
Right.
And then if they still want to do it, then go, okay, cool.
That's what I
like
do.
What you're talking about. Yeah, it's just
because
like,
I don't want them to think, especially when it's younger people who are like just getting started. You just don't want them to think that, like, like the joke always was, I used to do lectures at the art center.
Yep.
And I used to do lectures at the art center for my friend's class, and you would meet these kids who spent a couple $100,000 on an education,
right?
And they think they're going to graduate, and Vogue magazine's going to call them and hire them to shoot the cover, and I'd tell them that ain't going to happen for years, if at all. And so I always tell everybody, like, you got to sit there and pay your dues, and get in there and just seriously realize it's going to take a long time. There's a lot of people ahead of the line, and you got to pay your dues. And that's the thing, we always talk about this, the younger generation doesn't realize that you got to pay your dues. They all think that they should graduate, get called from Vogue, or right out of college should have their own show on Netflix. Right. And a lot of people, there are those stories where some people get that lucky. But again, and what I always say, like, call me in 20 years. Let's see where they're at in 20 years.
Also, a lot of those people who were like, oh, wow, that person, like, they turned that around really quick. Usually they're already from within the industry.
Yeah.
Their parents are.
Yeah.
They're somehow connected to it, which makes sense. Like, I mean, the child of a carpenter is much more likely to start getting better jobs in carpentry and building furniture, or something like that, than any other schmo off the street.
Don't worry about this. You can keep talking.
But I think that I think a lot of it does have to do with just persistence, and then also like making sure that people know.
Yeah.
Like it's special that you and your friends just spent $20,000 on a Red camera. That's great. But are you gonna be able to last through this when you all hate each other because you get pissed off because Ted over there like said something that you couldn't really handle during a shoot, and the shoot takes 20 hours instead of 6?
She's in trouble.
We should just invest in a proper little tripod for that thing. We just should. I'm sorry. But what?
It's good that you said that on recording.
Yeah.
Posterity, so we can
Yeah, exactly. Sorry.
Yeah,
But
just tape it to the window.
But I just, it's interesting. It's perspective. I mean, as I think has come up a couple of times here, you and I have spoken many times.
Yes.
And it's a thing that always kind of stands out with me. It's like, oh yeah, no, it doesn't really get easy. It just gets slightly easier at different points and a lot harder at different points.
Yeah,
and it's how much you can last through.
Yeah, but I saw an interview recently on Charlie Rose, and I don't know who the filmmaker was, but it was a quote that stuck with me. He said, you know, you always hear these stories about making a movie, how difficult it is, or it's not easy. And he said the best thing is there's not a movie that's ever been made that isn't easy to do. Like everything is difficult. Like don't think that even Steven Spielberg making a movie, it's still difficult.
Right.
Even if they have all the money in the world, it's work. It's difficult. There's problems. There's issues. It doesn't matter. And that stuck with me, that knowing that it doesn't matter what you're doing, they're all difficult. They're all difficult.
Yeah.
So it's like, and I always say, if it is easy, then I'm really nervous. Like if something's going well, you're like, okay,
there's something
wrong here. Like, and I've told you a million times that when somebody calls me up, the day that somebody calls me up and says, okay, Chris, we have $1 million. You get to we're going to pay you a shitload of money. You get to do whatever you want to do. You can do it where you want to do it. And you get to shoot, 20 supermodels. I'd be like, the greatest job in the world. And I know I'm going to walk outside and get hit by a bus at that point. I would be just like, I'd be too afraid to do the job because it's just too good to be true. And
something terrible is
going to happen. It's going to happen at the shoot. I'll get electrocuted, a camera, I'll break my leg or something, You just think that. And so, but everything is difficult. And everything, even when I was little, I was told, that everything good in life takes hard work and it's difficult. Yeah. And I think all the great talented people I've met through the years, I mean, yeah, on the outside, sometimes you think, oh man, they have the life. That's the life I want to live. But it's still difficult.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I always say nobody has it all. Nobody has it perfect. I don't care what you say. None of it is easy. Even Michael Jordan, the greatest basketball player ever, had his dad murdered. So it's like, to me, like, that just goes to show you, to me, in my mind, it was like, nobody has it all.
No.
And so life is not easy. As I tell all my young friends, and you know who they are, I say all the time, life is a full-time job. It's all work.
Yeah.
And it's harder now than it's ever been.
Yeah.
It really is. I mean, because there's more of everything.
There's more of everything.
Too much of everything.
There's more of everything except for money.
Yeah.
They keep taking the money away from us.
I think
we work harder, we get less.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it depends on who you are around. But if you're around the 1%, yeah, they'll be like, yeah, everything's great.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I just think that like right now, the work-wise and the money-wise, it's there. But I think if you're really doing all this to make money, then I would tell you to go do another job.
Yeah.
Like I said earlier, go to Starbucks. You can do better.
You'll make more money somewhere else, but you should be cognizant of of the business side and trying to make money while doing this.
Yeah.
Because you can't survive on the art.
I like our artistic tilt now.
Yeah, things a little. Anyway,
I like it.
No,
it works.
this is
better. This is good.
We could do this. We could all just lean that way, and it'll make it look
shit!
straight.
It went further.
It's okay.
Now it's
okay
a diamond.
if you lean in more, it'll be better.
It'll look straight. It's
good.
going. It's falling. That's funny.
No. There's not a whole lot of people watching, so we
I'm
might
not
just
concerned.
cut it. I don't know.
Oh, Shay's watching. He knows what I'm talking about the video editing system at the Alternative Community
But-
School. Anyway.
So
I know. So that speaking of New York, I think there's like more filmmakers in New York, or maybe I would say Brooklyn, than there's ever been.
Oh yeah.
Like 25. I started coming to New York 30 some odd years ago. I don't even want to say. But like there was people didn't talk filmmaking in this town. Like people didn't talk. It was Hollywood, it was entertainment, and it was everybody went to LA. But now there's more here than ever before. Every time I did some sort of shoot that was or music video or anything in New York, it was like limited to whether it was equipment houses to studios. I mean, there's now major motion picture studios outside of New York City, right? I mean, there's massive.
Yeah, they're
lots.
building more.
And they're building more.
Like the Brooklyn Navy Yard has a big one now, and I think didn't they just announce Silver Cup was expanding?
Yeah, and Silver Cup used to be the only thing in town
Yeah.
for like many years. It was the only place you would go. I mean, I did so many music videos there. But now there's like so much, and there's like equipment houses, and there's a million directors, and there's a whole film community here, and it's crazy to me. Like, I used to always say that Hollywood was the entertainment capital of the world. The entertainment capital of the world now is the world, because there's filmmaking done everywhere, in every city, in every country. There's somebody making something that's inspired by a YouTube thing and making a YouTube videos or YouTube show or whatever. It's crazy out there.
And there's so many cities that are getting hip to the tax incentive.
Yeah.
And bringing in productions. I mean, look at Atlanta, and in America alone, you go Atlanta, New Orleans, even Seattle, Los Angeles, the Bay Area, Chicago, New York.
Even Montana's got like this new incentive program where they're not just like, it's not just a tax incentive program. They're like, we'll give you money.
Yeah, exactly. Oh God, there's a lot of places like that.
It's like European practically.
Let's go to Montana.
I know.
I like money.
Exactly. You just got to shoot there, which is not a bad thing. It's a nice place. But a lot of places are like that now. A lot of cities, and then you take Europe, like you said, in South America. I just saw listened to something on NPR about some filmmaker down in, I don't want to say Peru, but it was somewhere down there, that they got money and they were making their own stuff, and you're like, wow, that's crazy. It's like, you don't have to be in Hollywood to do this anymore.
No, not at all. I mean, they're not even really doing it in Hollywood anymore. Like,
there was a lull there.
Shooting.
Can I say there was a lull there for a while? But it's really weird. I want to say the last 4 or 5 years. First of all, everybody seems to be moving to LA. A lot of New Yorkers are moving to LA.
Yep.
Yeah.
I have a lot of friends.
I know a few people, yeah.
Over the past like year or two, it's like Exodus.
Yeah, I've met a few up and coming directors, and they seem to have come from this area, whether they went to NYC Film School or whatever. But everybody's coming to LA again, and I see productions every day. Especially I live literally in Hollywood, so I see productions all the time. Taking up streets and taking up houses and whatever, and if I watch TV, I see more and more shows that it look like, I know that street, and da-da-da. But it's definitely, there's not a boom, I would say, but there's definitely production going on all over LA, a lot.
Yeah. And there's increasingly around here, and there's
too much of everything. I keep saying to everybody, like, how many networks are there now, and how many, you take all the networks and then all the shows, and everybody has to have their own shows, whether it's you take all the shows that Hulu and Amazon and Netflix are making, those alone, that's a lot of production. And then you tack on all the other sub channels, and then there's a lot of productions that being done for around the world. People are now producing shows here in America that they're selling to companies and networks all over the world, and there's just a lot of work. And I keep saying to everybody, then why am I not working? Like, where's it at? It's crazy. It's a crazy amount of production. And I think if you're in New York and you want to move to LA, don't. We have too much traffic. Way too much traffic.
Well, I think everybody's just leaving because it's too damn expensive to live here.
Yeah, there's that.
Yeah. What is it? There every year it seems like there's a new article saying like Brooklyn is the most expensive part of the country to live in. I'm like, I'm pretty sure you said that last year.
Yeah.
Still the most expensive part.
LA's getting up there too. LA is getting crazy right now.
Brooklyn,
San Francisco,
and then I think Manhattan's in there around as well.
Yeah, for sure.
But there's nothing left in Manhattan to kind of rent unless it's super expensive. I don't think there's any kind of low.
No, I don't think anybody can actually afford to live here. I think most apartments here are empty.
They're ridiculously expensive.
They're just too expensive. So nobody lives here, so they don't count it.
So I'm saying that you're an artist, and you're like, great. Where can I live and afford to live and do my art and make a living? It's not easy.
I can afford to live in Oklahoma, I think, but I'm pretty sure I can't do my work there.
Exactly. You have to go where the work is.
Yeah.
So. And that's the scary part, is like all of your friends that are moving to LA, they all move there thinking, all right, then I'm going to get production, make good money, I'm going to do all this stuff. And then because they hear stories of other people doing it, and all of a sudden they think they're going to be one of those. And then it doesn't happen. And then they just cause more traffic. And then they eventually leave. And you're like, great, go away. And I don't know. It's ridiculous. There's too many.
We just need to get somebody who people listen to start saying, like, I don't know, like somewhere in, I want to say Tennessee, not like Memphis, but just somewhere random in Tennessee. This is the new filmmaking capital. Well, and they're all going to move there. They're all going to start doing stuff there. Yeah. It's going to make it cheaper for the rest of us.
It'd be nice.
We can raise our rates here.
Exactly.
That's not gonna happen. It's my really good friend just moved to LA 2 months ago. She's from San Francisco, and she's been shooting up there. She's a DP, and she's really talented and just really a great energy to have on a set. She's just really, really good, and she's like trying to find work, and it's making her nuts. Like, she's like, there's all these websites, and you can apply. And I'm like, those don't work. I always tell her, like, it doesn't matter. I don't care what website you sign on to. I don't care what you pay some sort of thing to get a job. Or I go, the day I moved to Los Angeles, I got rule number 1, and it sticks to me to this day. I don't care what anybody says. It's not what you know, it's who you know.
Yeah. I was just thinking about that earlier today.
And the second part of that rule is it's not who you know, it's who you blow. And we always say it, the joke is, you don't know the people I've fucked to get to where I am today. All the wrong ones. It's true. So it's kind of the way it goes. But you have to know the right people. And it's like,
and unfortunately, I know
you. No, exactly. Well, I always say, like, after 36 years, I know all the wrong people. What a waste of time. I should have been hanging out. Instead of hanging out with Tom Hanks, I was hanging out with Joe Schmo, like, why did I do that? It's ridiculous. Kind of dumb of me on my part.
Well, let's wrap up this first episode real quick with you want to play a game?
Sure.
Well, it's not really a game. It's our usual thing that we do with people on the first episode, which is we just want to talk about favorite things. Like, what are you into right now?
Into right now?
Yeah. For whatever that means.
It's really weird. Not a whole lot, except my project, Greatest Hits. I have no time for anything else. I haven't been to the movies in 12 years. I haven't, TV-wise, I guess I've had to say favorite thing. I just finished Luke Cage on...
Nice.
So good. It was like the best thing I've seen in a long time. So good. Like, on every level, really great. And anybody who criticizes it is a fucking moron. Excuse me.
You can swear as much as you can.
Yeah. Music-wise, my favorite bands, I'm going to give them props because they're amazing. Out of LA is Hey Violet. They're friends. They're fucking brilliant. Their new single and their new EP is really good. My other favorite band, which is out of Australia that nobody knows about, is called Lepers and Crooks. Fucking the best. I cannot stop listening to these guys. They're so good. Like, so good. What other favorite things? Nothing. I just work. I don't do anything. That's it.
Those are fun.
That's it. What else is
your
there?
favorite thing is work.
Yeah.
That's all you care about.
I've been telling everybody lately, I need to come up with another word for it because it's not really work.
I mean, it's work.
It's work.
No, but it's not. It's like it's fun. It's what I do. I always tell people
it's work, but it's not a job.
Right. Well, it's like I tell my publicist and my producer, I says, you guys don't understand. Like, what I do, it's not a job. It's not a career. It's my life.
Yeah.
And it's been my life forever. So don't, like, you guys are all looking to get a job, and they have their jobs and their companies they're running. I go, but like, what I do is, it's not a job. I've never looked at it that way. It's my life. And I'm just trying to get paid for my life and stuff. So I love it. I love it more than ever. I really do. Lately, it's been amazing.
Nice.
So
fantastic.
That's my favorite things.
What is your favorite things?
I was also going to say Luke Cage because I just finished it like 2 days ago, and I agree, it was fantastic. I was sorry it was over. I can't wait for season 2.
I agree.
I can't wait for that Defenders show that Netflix is going to have in a couple of years with him and Jessica Jones and Daredevil. Is that next fall?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Can't wait for that.
You just have to admit, like, whatever they're doing, Marvel's doing for Netflix is so good. And the downside of it is I tell my friend Mo, he's a DC guy. I would say, like, I loved Arrow, Supergirl, Flash, all the things on CW. As entertainment, they're really good. But boy, these Marvel shows make that stuff look like crap.
Yeah.
Like, it's a whole different level.
It's a different level. It's a different aesthetic they're going for.
And Luke Cage, the best thing about Luke Cage was they made it come up. You can see if you agree, but like they made it like a black exploitation film, basically. All the elements, the music, like the rawness of it, like it sounds like they recorded it like on an 8-track tape player or something. Like, it's just like there's this whole vibe to it all, and the music performances are amazing. Like,
yeah, the music performances are really great.
Yeah,
they had some great people on that show. You heard about Prince, about how they were that story?
No.
They wanted to get him on it, yeah.
Yeah,
Really?
and that's actually how the swear jar they have in the barbershop came about, was they were hoping that because, Prince was Jehovah's Witness and like didn't curse after some, and so they were hoping that would appeal to him, and had like put that together to be as a big pitch to be like, be on the last episode playing at the club, but he unfortunately passed away. Which is too bad because that would have been awesome. But yeah, Luke Cage is fantastic. Another show I'm very, very into right now that's another favorite thing is Atlanta, which I highly recommend. Some of the best writing I've seen on TV. I'm a couple episodes behind, but each episode is like a great little short film. The characters are all really good. The acting's good. The writing's great.
I watched the first 10 minutes of the first show, and I knew it was good, but I just haven't had time to watch it.
I recommend it. I think it's worth it.
It looks like it's great.
It's more that's like the most exciting thing for me on TV right now.
Yeah.
Every episode, I was just telling Sean before we came over here, like it's one of those shows that makes me laugh a lot, but it also surprises me. Like there'll be twists I didn't see coming, and then I laugh out of a combination of humor and also just delight at being surprised, and that makes me feel alive, and that's great. Also, the last show I'll mention is randomly just recently started watching You're the Worst, which is an FXX show. It was recommended to me like years ago when I was writing a TV pilot, and a TV producer was like, watch this. This is one of the very few good half-hour comedies.
It's very creative.
Right now. Really, I really enjoy it, and I wouldn't even think I'd enjoy it because it's like, okay, two terrible people like twist on the rom-com. That's not like my target demo exactly, but
I watched the whole first season and when it was on, and I loved it.
Yeah, it's really good. It's really enjoyable. Yeah. So I recommend You're the Worst. Sean?
Cool. I've been really enjoying the Exorcist show. I'm a big fan of the original movie.
What year did the movie come out?
77, 76, I think.
Because I was just talking to somebody about it on Friday. I had a friend over.
I feel like it was
on, and she was saying how it scared the shit out of her, and I was like, yeah, that was
maybe it was 75.
Might have been 75.
I want to say 75.
I want to say 75.
Might even be 72.
I want to say 75. Because I remember when
Let's
I was.
find out.
I remember when I was
73. We're all wrong.
Shit.
So I was 13.
But
yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah, it's a big fan of the original movie. I remember when they did that re-release with more footage, and they restored some stuff to it.
Like you guys weren't around then, though. But just to give you a little history here, when that movie came out, it scared the shit out of everybody. It was like, at the time, it was like probably the scariest movie ever made, and it was so fresh and new with the whole fun. It just took over the country. It was like one of those just massive things, and everybody was going to see it, and everybody was scared, and everybody was freaking out, and Linda Blair just blew up and was the biggest thing in the world, and all I remember is my parents wouldn't let me see it because I was too young. I was so mad.
It's a great movie, and the show
looks good.
It's shot really good. It's doing that slow burn thing, but not the slow burn thing where nothing happens, where something happens and it's progressing, but it's like slowly giving you little bits. And Gina Davis is great in it, and I want to say his name's Alan Ruck. What's his name from Ferris Bueller? The friend from Ferris Bueller.
Oh yeah.
Cameron, yeah, he's in it. From Ferris Bueller, and
is Ferris Bueller in it?
Oh, I wish. That would be great. She should show up.
Yeah, when she gets possessed, she's like, Bueller.
but they're both doing this great job, and there's these actresses playing their daughters with the possession stuff going on, and it's playing into it. Basically, they established pretty early on. It's not quite it's sort of in the same world and sort of a sequel to the original movie. I mean, I've only seen the third movie once, and I remember enjoying it with George C. Scott, and I'm probably the only person in the world who actually likes the second movie. This is The Heretic, where I'm like, yeah, no, this shouldn't exist in terms of, like, the first movie was really scary and really, really good, and the second movie is John Boorman was probably on drugs, and it is an insane movie. It is ridiculous, but I love that. It is.
So the show, check it out then.
But the show, absolutely check it out.
I will tell my
really
friends
good.
at Fox you like it.
You tell them. You tell them.
I will let them know.
Get them to You get them to hire you to photograph their.
That would be nice.
Their upcoming.
I wonder where they shoot that show at.
It takes place in Chicago, so maybe they're shooting it there.
Yeah, probably then.
So, yeah. Get a free trip to Chicago, man.
Yeah, I know.
And invite me. I'm your assistant.
Watch the Cubs win the World Series.
Yeah. Cool. Well, that's our show for now. Where can people find you on the internets?
Instagram and Twitter is Cuffaro Photo, CUFFARO PHOTO. Facebook page is the same, I think, Cuffaro Photo. My website is cuffarophoto.com. My project website is cuffarohits.com. I think that's it. What am I forgetting?
Cool. And join us again for our next episode when we will be talking more to Chris about crowdfunding and photography and social media and all that good stuff.
Excellent. Goodbye.
Bye.
If you like what you heard, please subscribe on iTunes or your podcast platform of choice, and check out other 4 Mile Circus services and projects at 4milecircus.com, as well as 4 Mile Circus on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Watch our first VOD release, Nicole's award-winning feminist phone sex horror comedy Small Talk, at 4milecircus.com/store,